should now be hit, all goods coming from Canada, with an additional 35% tariff. And this is one of the many that Donald Trump, according to these letters he's sending around to different countries.
We begin with breaking news from Washington, where Donald Trump has delivered a major salvo in his trade war, this time aimed squarely at Canada.
President Trump just fired a devastating salvo in his trade war, targeting Canada with a crushing blow. On Wednesday, Trump announced a staggering 35% tariff on all Canadian imports starting August 1st, 2025, with exemptions only for goods compliant with the United States, Mexico-Canada agreement. But Canada's not backing down. It's rewriting the global energy playbook. On June 30th, 2025, Canada launched its first ever overseas liquefied natural gas shipment to Asia, bypassing decades of U.S. pipeline dependence and signaling a bold new era of energy independence. Smash that like button to crush the YouTube algorithm. This isn't just a trade spat, it's a seismic shift in global energy dynamics. For over 30 years, Canada funneled all its natural gas export, say $8 billion worth in 2024, or about 8.8 billion cubic feet daily, through U.S. pipelines. But Trump's tariffs, including a 25% duty on most Canadian imports and a 10% tariff on energy products since March 2025, squeezed Canada's energy sector into a corner. The game changer, the LNG Canada terminal in Kitimat, British Columbia, a 40 billion Canadian dollar project that's redefining Canada's role in global markets. This massive facility compresses and chills natural gas to minus 165 degrees Celsius, shrinking its volume 600 times for easy maritime transport. Unlike pipeline routes through the U.S., which took up to 20 days via the Panama Canal, Kitimat's Pacific shipping lanes cut transit to Asia to just 10 days. The first shipment, carried by the gas log Glasgow, delivered 2.66 million tons of high-grade liquefied natural gas to Asia's powerhouses, Japan, South Korea, and China, hungry for cleaner, geopolitically stable energy. If you're stunned, hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop. The economic stakes are colossal. Canada's gas was once priced below U.S. benchmarks, leaving producers vulnerable to Trump's tariffs, which slashed contract viability. But Asia's booming demand changes everything. Japan aims to add 20 million tons of LNG capacity annually from 2026. South Korea plans to boost LNG storage by 50% over the next decade. China's locking in long-term supply contracts for winter. Canada's first shipment marks its entry as a timely player, free from U.S. oversight in a white-hot market where LNG is a policy cornerstone. The LNG Canada project isn't just about economics, it's a sustainability and community triumph. Over 7 years, construction created 50,000 Canadian jobs and funneled 5.8 billion Canadian dollars in contracts to local firms and the Haisla Nation. This indigenous community holds equity in the Coastal GasLink pipeline, stretching nearly 700 kilometers to connect British Columbia's shale gas fields to Kitimat's terminal. Powered by hydroelectricity, the facility's 2 liquefaction trains produce up to 14 million tons of LNG annually, making it one of the world's lowest emission LNG export hubs. But challenges loom large. Harsh weather, remote terrain, and Canada's strict environmental regulations drove costs higher than U.S. Gulf Coast projects. British Columbia's government offset this with carbon and sales tax incentives, sparking debates over corporate responsibility versus public benefit. Still, the terminal's technology, supplied by Japanese and American firms, minimizes carbon output, aligning with Asia's climate-conscious markets. Canada's pivot to Asia isn't just a trade move, it's a geopolitical statement, breaking free from U.S. tariff threats and pipeline constraints. Trump's tariffs aimed to strong-arm Canada, but they've backfired. The 35% import duty and 10% energy tariff crippled Canada's U.S.-bound gas pricing, pushing producers to seek new markets. Asia's demand offers a lifeline. Japan's 80% energy import reliance, South Korea's push for stable LNG, and China's winter contracts make Canada's direct Pacific route a game changer. By bypassing U.S. pipelines, Canada sidesteps Trump's trade volatility, securing a foothold in Asia's energy-hungry economies. The Kitimat terminal's strategic edge is undeniable. Its Pacific access slashes shipping times, outpacing U.S. routes through congested Panama Canal paths. The gas-logged Glasgow's maiden voyage proved Canada can deliver LNG faster and cheaper to Asia, boosting its leverage in global energy markets. This shift insulates Canada from U.S. policy swings like the 25% tariff hike in March, which threatened $8 billion in annual gas exports. Canada's no longer a regional player, it's a global contender. Markets are feeling the heat. Asian energy stocks rose 1.5% after Canada's LNG debut, reflecting confidence in new supply chains. U.S. energy firms, hit by Canada's pivot, saw shares dip, with ExxonMobil and Chevron falling 2.3% and 2.1%, respectively. Canada's TSX Energy Index climbed 1.8%, fueled by LNG optimism. The shift isn't just economic, it's a power realignment, with Canada stepping out of Washington's shadow. The LNG Canada project's success hinges on more than infrastructure. Its partnership with the Haisla Nation sets a new standard, integrating Indigenous equity into energy development. Over $5.8 billion in local contracts and 50,000 jobs show Canada's commitment to inclusive growth. The terminals, hydroelectric power and low-emission tech align with Japan and South Korea's decarbonization goals, giving Canada a competitive edge over dirtier LNG exporters. This isn't just about gas, it's about sovereignty. Canada's breaking free from 30 years of U.S. pipeline dependence, which left it vulnerable to tariff shocks. The Kitimat terminal's direct Pacific access empowers Canada to dictate its energy future, not Washington. With Asia's demand soaring, Canada's LNG exports could reshape global energy flows, challenging U.S. dominance. Canada's energy revolution is rewriting the global trade map, and Trump's tariffs can't stop it. The LNG Canada terminal in Kitimat, British Columbia, launched on June 30, 2025, has shattered 30 years of U.S. pipeline dependence, sending 2.66 million tons of liquefied natural gas directly to Asia. Trump's 35% tariff on Canadian imports and 10% energy tariff, starting August 1, 2025, aimed to cripple Canada's economy. Instead, Canada's pivoting to Japan, South Korea, and China, securing its place as a global energy powerhouse. This isn't a trade spat, it's a geopolitical earthquake. The Kitimat facility, costing 40 billion Canadian dollars, is a game changer. Its 2 liquefaction trains, powered by hydroelectricity, produce 14 million tons of LNG annually, with plans to double to 28 million tons by 2030. This could rank Canada among the world's top 5 LNG exporters, rivaling Qatar and Australia. Asian markets, desperate for cleaner energy, are all in. Japan's targeting 20 million tons of LNG capacity yearly from 2026. South Korea's expanding storage by 50%, and China's locking in winter contracts. Canada's timing is perfect, bypassing Trump's trade barriers. The strategic shift is seismic. For decades, Canada's $8 billion gas export, say 0.8 billion cubic feet daily, flowed through U.S. pipelines, vulnerable to tariffs like the 25% duty imposed in March 2025. Now, Kitimat's Pacific shipping lanes cut transit times to Asia from 20 days via the Panama Canal to 10 days, slashing costs and emissions. This direct route insulates Canada from U.S. policy volatility like Trump's 35% tariff threat and positions it as a reliable supplier to energy-hungry Asia. Sustainability is at the core. LNG Canada's hydroelectric power and low-emission tech make it one of the greenest LNG hubs globally. Japanese and American equipment minimizes carbon output, aligning with Asia's climate goals. The project created 50,000 jobs over 7 years and funneled 5.8 billion Canadian dollars to local firms and the Haisla Nation, who hold equity in the 700-kilometer Coastal GasLink pipeline. This Indigenous partnership sets a new standard, boosting Canada's global ESG credibility. Challenges persist. Harsh British Columbia weather, remote terrain, and strict environmental rules inflate costs compared to U.S. Gulf Coast terminals. Provincial tax incentives for carbon and sales ease the burden, but spark debates over public benefits versus corporate gains. Still, Canada's leveraging its strengths. The Montney Basin's 160 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves and low production costs make it a long-term player. By 2026, 170 voyages annually to Yokohama, Busan, and Singapore will multiply revenue. Asia's demand is relentless. Japan, importing over 80% of its energy, sees Canadian LNG as a geopolitical hedge post-Fukushima, reducing nuclear reliance. South Korea views it as a buffer against volatile Russian and Middle Eastern gas. China's diversifying its energy mix with Canada's stable supply. These nations aren't just buyers, they are stakeholders, with Japanese, South Korean, Chinese, and Malaysian firms in LNG Canada's joint venture, aligning producer and consumer interests for decades. Global competition is fierce. Qatar's North Field expansion aims for 126 million tons yearly by 2030, while U.S. Gulf Coast terminals offer flexible contracts. Australia's offshore projects strengthen its Southeast Asian grip. Canada counters with credibility. Its political stability, transparent laws, and ESG focus make it a trusted supplier. Unlike Russian gas, hit by sanctions, or Middle Eastern oil, tied to instability, Canada's LNG offers predictability, critical for Japan and South Korea's decarbonization goals. The economic ripple is massive. Canada's pivot could generate billions in revenue, with Phase 2 of LNG Canada needing tens of billions in investment. Doubling capacity to 28 million tons requires expanded pipelines and possibly a second terminal, like the Indigenous-led Cedar LNG. These projects demand investor confidence, environmental compliance, and government coordination to avoid delays. British Columbia's carbon pricing and strict regulations raise costs, but ensure global appeal as buyers prioritize low-carbon LNG. Markets are reacting. Asian energy stocks climbed 1.7% after Canada's LNG debut, while U.S. firms like ConocoPhillips dipped 2.4% as Canada's pivot threatens their market share. Canada's TSX Energy Index rose 2%, reflecting LNG optimism. The shift isn't just economic, it's strategic. By decoupling from U.S. pipelines, Canada escapes Trump's tariff traps, like the 10% energy duty, and builds resilience against trade shocks. Canada's not just exporting gas, it's exporting influence. The Haisla Nation's equity stake ensures Indigenous communities share economic benefits, setting a model for global energy projects. Asian buyers, tying procurement to ESG metrics, favor Canada's transparent governance and clean energy profile. As Europe's carbon border adjustments and Asia's net zero policies tighten, Canada's low-emission LNG gains a pricing edge, outshining dirtier competitors. The geopolitical stakes are sky-high. Canada's direct Pacific access sidesteps Panama Canal congestion and Suez instability, cutting shipping emissions and costs. This strengthens its appeal to Japan, South Korea, and China, who see Canada as a neutral, reliable partner amid Eastern European conflicts and Russian sanctions. Canada's no longer a U.S. appendage. It's a global energy leader, reshaping trade flows and challenging American dominance. Looking ahead, Canada's LNG ambitions hinge on execution. Phase 2's expansion to 28 million tons demands streamlined permitting, robust financing, and carbon capture investments. Regulatory delays or investor skepticism could stall progress, especially against Qatar's scale and U.S. flexibility. But Canada's strength, stability, sustainability, and proximity to Asia position it to thrive. This isn't just about gas, it's about Canada defining its energy future on its own terms.